Hi, I'm Alex, and today I'm going to be sharing my testimony. I always really like it when people say this before a video starts, so I'm going to say it. Grab some coffee, grab some tea or some water, get comfy. I have my coffee that I will be sipping throughout this, and yeah, let's just get into this. Okay, I have some notes here that I might be referring to periodically because I feel like it can be a lot to try to summarize your whole life story into one thing. And so I actually identified 4 key areas of my life that I feel, themes, that's the word. I identified 4 key themes that I feel like are really prevalent throughout my life and where God worked the most and the things that I struggled with. So I'll be focusing on those things, but we'll just kind of get started from the beginning. So I'm calling this my early years and just development phase. I grew up in a Christian household. We went to church regularly. We went to Wednesday nights regularly. We had fellowship. I went to youth events, very active in the church. I remember, I think when I was really young, like 5 or 6 maybe, I got saved, first time I'll say. And when I was 8 or 9, we were attending a private Christian school, and there was a message that they were preaching, and I think it was about if you are really saved. And so after that, I went up to my 5th grade teacher. Yeah, 5th grade. I told her, I was like, I don't think that I'm really saved. And so she prayed with me right there. This was on our way back to class. I'm really happy that I remember this moment. That's when I really consider my true gotten saved moment. And I don't know if I really told my parents or my friends this. I think it was something that I just kept to myself. And it was really special that way because that felt like a defining moment that I decided for myself. Because maybe when I was 5 or 6, I didn't fully understand. I felt like it was my decision fully at that point. And I think I got baptized a few years later at my church. So in my early years, the first theme that I want to talk about is confidence. In my early teens and just regular teen years, so preteen and on, I was really insecure. I was insecure about my appearance and then also my personality. I felt like everyone was dissecting both of them and judging both of them. And so I was comparing myself constantly to everyone around me, but especially girls, because during that time, for some reason, it just feels like girls are almost your competition. It almost was kind of a resentful thing, like, oh, I wish I had this trait, or I would try to pick somebody apart in my mind to make myself feel better, which is not what I wanted to do at all. I felt horrible about doing it. I was just very insecure, and I was constantly living in an insecurity about myself as a whole, especially my appearance in the beginning. It even trickled to my personality too. I felt like maybe I was too much or too little or too inconsistent, which is a really weird thing to think about for your personality, but that was something that really bothered me. Was I felt like some days I was super hyper and other days I was super quiet, and it just really bothered me for some reason. So I have a couple theories about where it came from. It wasn't anything that people directly did. It was kind of more indirect comments or behaviors. It definitely influenced my thoughts about myself, but their intentions were probably never to do anything like that. It just kind of happened that way. That's kind of where I was at in terms of confidence in my development phase. The next theme that I'm going to talk about is peace. And this wasn't super prevalent in my early years, at least not consciously. I have been an overthinker and a chronic worrier for as long as I can remember. Living in my head was my reality versus actual reality. I would imagine up scenarios and I would just kind of live in my headspace more than I would live in real life. And this did not occur to me until kind of later on. At the time, I did not know I was doing it. If I did, maybe I would have tried to get out of my head. Maybe I wouldn't have. I liked being there. But the reality is, it would end up becoming uncomfortable for me at times because I would start to have spiraling scenarios, intrusive thoughts, and destructive self-talk too. So it would kind of just be a pool of negativity, honestly. But in terms of peace, that wasn't something that I really felt in my mind, like, ever. My next theme is purpose, which is a really big one. So this I started feeling the most during college. It's just that time of your life, figuring out what you want to do, who you want to be. And so I started really thinking and trying to focus on what my purpose was. And I should mention that during this time in college, kind of like in my younger years too, I would definitely define myself as a Christian, but I didn't have a true relationship with Jesus at that point. It wasn't even going through the motions, honestly. When I went to college, I didn't go to church. I didn't do devotions. I didn't read my Bible. I would pray some nights, but it definitely was not all nights. And there were a lot of dark periods in my college too, and obviously those facts are connected. That just kind of gives you a picture into like tying purpose and God. I wasn't doing that because while I was a Christian and still believed in God, I wasn't actively seeking a relationship with Him and trying to grow in Him. Naturally, none of my solutions in my head to finding my purpose or being my purpose were God-driven, but I felt I had such a strong push and passion and desire to find my purpose. And even today, that's something that's it's a core part of who I am. I find purpose very important in someone's life. I know not everybody does, and so that's why I want to make that distinction. It is very important to me in my mind, regardless of anything happening. I was in college during COVID towards the end. So this is towards the end of my college. And it was kind of the post-COVID time when manifestation and drop shipping were all the rage. And so I bought one of those drop shipping courses. So I tried that and I failed. It just felt like my morals were not lined up with what it really meant. After that, similar thing, I tried print on demand, which is kind of another version of that, but again, another store. But that also didn't feel aligned, so I didn't continue with that. I dove into manifestation, creating my own reality, trying to be an influencer. I epically failed on that one. And I say epically failed because that one, it was like the failures got worse as they went along, and I can recognize now that that was because my worst failures were when I was trying to rely on my abilities and my control the most. So my last theme goes hand in hand with purpose, and it's humility. So like I mentioned, at the same time as trying to discover my purpose, I was also really into the idea of I can create my own reality. I am a big control person. I don't like to say control freak because it has a negative connotation and there's just too much negativity to be trying to put something negative into it. But I really try to control everything. And so I really loved the idea of being able to kind of write my own reality and manipulate and control it to exactly what I was thinking. And I was confident that I could do anything that I set my mind to. I know myself best, so I know what's best for me. So that's where my humility was. It was obviously at an all-time low. That's okay because we learn. But yeah, I was directing my own life at this point. Very, very much so. Now I call this the discovery phase. This is kind of, I feel like, the turning point in each of these themes. This was towards the end of college and beginning married life, which, by the way, I got married a year after I graduated college. So they're very intertwined with one another. So it's really just, I guess, post-college life and the beginning of that. We're gonna take a little drink though. Okay, so back to the discovery phase. During this time, I was really figuring out what I believed, what I wanted to make of my life, who I was, and also what role God played in my life, which at this point, He was still very much a side character. I would almost want to, I would say He was a background character in my earlier years and in my development phase. And at this point, I would say He definitely becomes more of a side character, which is still not enough for me. Back to the confidence. In college is when my perspective of this started to change a little bit. So in the beginning of college, I was very almost resentful towards all people. I was one of those people that was like, I hate people. And I'm an introvert, so it was really easy for me to disguise that as just being reserved and introverted and liking my own company more than anybody else's. I was really taking it a step further, and I would judge people without even knowing them and assuming that they were all bad and they were all the same. And it was really hateful, honestly. And I didn't see it as that at the time. I was just like, it's just the truth, as if I knew. But that was kind of my outlook on people until I met a few people that some of them were my roommates. And it was kind of that forced proximity of being around people that kind of helped me see, okay, my perception of people is just wrong. I have this jaded idea of them. It was like this. I was pushing people away before I even met them because I felt like they were going to judge me if they got to know me. And so I made the decision, I'm already deeming you as some type of way, so you can't have the potential of judging me. So I would judge them so they couldn't have the opportunity to judge me, which is silly. When I finally was kind of forced to interact with people, I learned that that's really not the case. And I remember there was a turning point where I realized that beauty is subjective and attraction, whether it's physical or emotional, mental, is subjective. And so not everybody is going to find everyone attractive, and that's okay. And so that helped build my confidence a bit, especially with getting to know people, just being able to exist and interact with others without having a jaded view of them. Still very much influenced by a worldly view because I'm still caring about what some people think about me, but now I just wasn't taking things as personally. So there was progress, but it wasn't fully in the right direction yet. That's kind of how I see it. To peace. So this was the biggest thing in my life at this point. I think it was because it had kind of all come to a head and it wasn't something that was on the surface when I was younger. But now with there being, I guess, maybe more opportunities as I was growing into an adult, it really just started to show itself. I was not going to college where my close family, so my mom, my dad, and my sister, they live in Michigan. I was going to college at that point in Oklahoma. I would visit like once or twice a year throughout my college, and it was actually towards the end of college where this had happened. So in a span of a few months, there were actually 2 trips that I had planned to go to Michigan. And I ended up, I could say missing, but really canceling them because of anxiety. It really was just anxiety. That was the reason. I wanted to go and see my family both times, but the anxiety was informing my decision making. I still made the choice. Anxiety did not choose for me, but I allowed it to influence me strong enough to make that decision. After the second time that this had happened, my mom had called me. She strongly suggested that I seek outside help. And that really freaked me out at the time because I had gone to therapy a few times. They weren't the right therapists for me, so I didn't get much out of them, but I wasn't opposed to therapy. But I know that she was speaking more about medication, and I had a really negative view of medication, as I know a lot of people do who don't take it. I had zero judgment towards people who did, but for me, I felt like I was giving up or surrendering or like succumbing to it, or I don't even know. I just felt like I was defeated if I were to take it, or that I felt like maybe, even though my faith wasn't super strong at that point, that I was signaling to God, like, I don't trust you to do this on your own, so I'm gonna take matters into my own hands. And I was scared that it was gonna make me feel some type of way, or that I was gonna become dependent on it. There were a lot of fears surrounding it at the time. I kind of had a breakdown about that, but she knew how I felt about medication. So I knew that if she was bringing this up to me, regardless of how she knew how I felt, that it was important. So at first I tried therapy. I told my psychologist at the time, we're gonna try therapy first. She's like, okay, great. And so I did therapy for a while. My husband and I ended up going on our honeymoon. We had it a little bit delayed just so we could save some money for it. and I ended up having a really big breakdown during that time. After that had happened, it had such an impact on our honeymoon, obviously. It was really bad. When I got back, I was like, I don't care anymore. I don't care what I think. Like, I'm going to try medication. And so my psychologist was on board. Her recommendation actually helped me with my doctor. I didn't have to advocate too hard for myself, but my diagnosis from my psychologist definitely helped a lot. If anyone's curious, I was diagnosed with OCD and anxiety, and it was really great because I didn't know at the time that my psychologist she specialized in OCD. I didn't know that. I didn't list it where I was looking, but it was really great because that was kind of what therapy I needed the most. I needed very central exposure therapy. I started taking medication, and it was very clear that a big part of my problem was a chemical imbalance. And so I'm still taking medication today. I know sometimes people are curious about it with the whole medication and Christianity thing. That was my solution for it at the time. I was also still working on using the tools from therapy and doing all the exposure. The root of my peace, it wasn't coming from God at that point. It was kind of coming from just the practicality of it all. Back to my purpose. So I had failed at all of my ventures. Recognizing all of those was discouraging at best. I was really beating myself up for it. I was beating myself up for failing in the first place, for not giving them enough time to see if I would succeed, for not being diligent enough to be consistent regardless of whether I fail or succeed. It was a whole mess, and it really made me wonder where I went wrong too, because I was so confident in all of these things in the beginning. And so by this point of like all those failed ventures, I had been working a 9-to-5 for a couple of years. So I had the luxury of being able to choose what I did with my time after work. So instead of trying to pursue those side hobbies or side hustles, I decided to just strip back to basics. Hi. Which really just meant build good habits, treat my body well. And at this point, I was starting to recognize my need for growing in my relationship with God. Hello. I'm finally starting to see that life really has no purpose or meaning without God. In my journey of kind of going back to basics, just starting to live a more mindful life, I guess, we can tie in humility. This is really hard for me to say even now because this is the thing that I still struggle with the most. I've found that with basic things, like doing house chores or just keeping a healthy routine, I couldn't do them consistently or regularly. There was just refusal on my part for whatever reason or explanation or justification I could give my mind at the time for deciding not to. And as someone who is really a type A, makes all the to-do lists, stays organized, loves having a clean, tidy space, it seriously dumbfounded me how I wasn't able to do what I consider these basic things that so many people can do on the regular. I'm just like, why? What is wrong with me that I cannot do these things? I feel like I have the whole formula here. I should be able to. I love to be productive. I love to be on top of things. It made no sense. Understanding that like it was normal for me to not be able to be consistent was very humbling, to say the least. I'm a few years out of college now, and so we're heading into present day. For this phase, I want to call it the gardening phase, because what I feel like it is planting these deep roots and tending to the things that are currently in my life instead of trying to make some perfect reality from it, and also just letting go of control. Hi. Okay. Heading back to confidence, I was still stuck in that phase for a couple of years where it was beauty is subjective. You know, some people will like me, some people won't. Some people will find me pretty, some people won't, and that's okay. But as I began to mature in my faith, since I was really starting to spend more time in the Word, do devotions, talk to God, have regular, I guess, meetings with Him. I can say prayer, but they kind of felt more just like worship time, meetings, talks, whatever. As I was doing that, it made me realize that I was carrying still too much about the world's opinion of me and other people's opinions of me. And the only one that I should care about is God's. Because ultimately, my worth is not tied to what I look like. And honestly, it's not even tied to my personality, which is something that is like still trying to process through me. But my worth is tied to simply being a child of God, and that He created me and He created all of us. And we're all made in His image too. And so having a negative view of myself it's only damaging to me. It's not helping me or keeping me humble in any way, which was sometimes what I tried to say to myself, like, oh, don't take compliments because they'll get to your head. But we aren't supposed to think badly of ourselves because we're God's creation. He doesn't want that. And something I'm still working through today is kind of now my body image, just honoring my body and treating it as a temple while also not denying or restricting myself of too many things. I have to be careful about not being too extreme on either side because I can take the extremes pretty intensely. So I'm just trying to find that line and that balance. But that's where I'm at with confidence. I definitely am in the best place that I have ever been with it before, because now my confidence feels strongly rooted in who God says I am, which is the only thing that will ultimately sustain it. Next up is peace. I ended therapy and I just was focusing on doing the treatment at home and keeping the medication, and through those, but honestly, mostly through God, I have experienced overwhelming moments of peace that passes all understanding. I can't even explain in those moments what is happening, but just that I know that they're coming from God. It's a beautiful reminder in those moments that ultimately He's our Prince of Peace. He is the only thing that can truly provide that long-lasting and consistent feeling. And that continued peace gets me through every day, honestly. Medication is not a miracle worker. We will sometimes not be able to get through to ourselves with the tools that we are given, but God will never fail, and that is a great feeling. I don't know if I'm going to continue medication forever or if there's someday I'm going to try to wean off of it. It's not something I've given a lot of thought at the moment, because I do believe that permanent chemical balances exist. Sometimes it feels like maybe our chemicals and hormones are off whack temporarily, and then I think for others that it's something that is permanent and consistent. I could be so wrong. I am not a doctor, so take this all with a grain of salt. That's how I feel like it can go. It can go one of two ways, and I don't really know which one I am, and I'm not really in a place where I feel like I need to change something up at the moment, but it is always something I'm mindful of and thinking about, and just praying and listening to God on what He has for me. So back to purpose. As I was starting to spend more time with Him and kind of focusing less on what I felt like my life should be, I was focusing on all of the areas that there was goodness present in my life and that they were all from Him. And I started feeling like maybe this was the only area that I hadn't given Him yet, because I was still relying on myself to try to figure out what my purpose was or to do what I felt was right. I really just gave Him all of that. This was pretty recently. It helped me to stop trying to control my life so much, plain and simple. And also the fact that remembering that our ultimate purpose as Christians is to love God, love His people, and to bring people to Him. I don't know if you've ever heard people talking about their general purpose and their specific purpose, but that, as believers, is our general purpose. And my specific purpose was the thing that I was really trying to figure out. But now I'm giving that to Him too, because anything I do ain't working. And I've come to the place where I may not ever know my specific purpose. Maybe I'll never have a specific purpose, or like maybe I will be living it and I won't even know it. And that is okay. I'm honestly still telling myself that on a daily basis, because that's something I really still struggle with, since I'm very purpose driven. Ultimately, that's what I tell myself. It's okay if I don't know. I don't need to know. I really don't actually have to know for Him to still work through me. And that is great. That just feels like a burden lifted off of my shoulders, honestly, to be able to just say that out loud. And it doesn't even have to be a big thing too. That was really important for me. Like, some people are called to what seem like such life-changing things. Going on mission trips, serving in third world countries, showing up in our daily life in the way that he has planned is the same thing. That can still be living out our specific purpose. And I think I felt like, because I always had like big dreams, big visions, I was very idealistic in my thinking. I felt like my purpose had to be big and it had to be dramatic and it had to be just groundbreaking to me. But it doesn't have to be. It can be just those daily moments, which are the moments that matter the most for a lot of people. I know that I'm heading in the right direction if I continue to read the Bible and follow Jesus, love God and his people, and try to bring people closer to him and be a witness to what he's done in my life. That I have complete security and faith in. And then humility, the last one, the one that I'm definitely experiencing and happening in real time right now. A few weeks ago, while I was doing devotions, it hit me. I can't accomplish all I want or all I want to be on my own at all in any capacity. As self-sufficient as I want to be and feel like I can be, this fact does not change. I can only live according to his will, which is ultimately my desire, if I do it with him leading me and right beside me. No matter how big or small the thing is, only his strength is reliable and enough. And again, this is still something that needs to fully set in my mind. It has not baked in there, it's not completed, but I'm continuing to reaffirm this in my mind every single day. And it's hard to admit. It's honestly really difficult for me as someone who likes to be productive, an achiever, and likes to set goals. It's hard to say, I can't even get off the couch and make dinner. It doesn't feel kind of like hopelessness or despair, or it doesn't feel like nothing either. It's more like, I don't feel like I want to do it, so I shouldn't. It's funny to say that out loud, but that is really what it is. It almost has to feel right for me to be able to do it. It's funny that a lot of the time, probably most of the time, I'm not able to convince myself otherwise, that even if you don't feel like it, you can still do it. Like, even with that being true, there is something that makes me just incapable of doing it. But when I have been experimenting with this and either putting on worship music before even starting the thing or deciding to start the thing, or just telling God, can we do this together? Because I can't get myself to do it. I've always been able to do it. And then I've been able to do even more after. As long as I'm existing and soaking in his presence, it feels so different to be able to do those mundane everyday things with his presence with me versus it not. It's just the best thing. It is peaceful. There aren't these thoughts racing around about any random thing while I'm already doing something. I am being present. I am taking note of all the beautiful little creations around me, grateful for all of the things that I have. It's like a little slice of heaven. That's what I was telling myself a couple months ago when I was reading Imagine Heaven. I was like, I want to experience a little slice of heaven every single day. That's a way to do it, is just inviting his presence into your everyday moments and really just sitting in it and soaking it in. I feel like maybe I've made it sound like I have got these things figured out. Every storyline has concluded, every theme has a happy ending, but honestly, like, these are still things that are daily practices for me. I am forever a work in progress. I'm never going to get there. It's always going to be about the journey and not the destination, even though I'm such a destination person. It's hilarious how I'm having to reframe my mindset completely. But I mean, I know it can be done. I know God can do it, and he is currently. A lot of the times we will hear and see stories of just complete deliverance and complete healing from areas. And I just want to make it clear that that is not my story. And I am happy it isn't. I used to pray for that kind of thing to happen, but I'm happy it's not, because this continuous daily practice is important for me personally, to recognize God's goodness and to continuously rely on Him in these areas. Because if I feel like I'm good, it's really easy for me to want to like take control back over when things are good and be like, okay, let me keep this good. And that's when things go bad. These aren't fully healed areas, and they probably will never be. And really that's okay, because these things that I need to grow in keep me grounded to God and keep me dependent on Him, because I just want to do so many things on my own. I'm human. I'm imperfect, and I think that's going to be forever one of my flaws, is always thinking I can do it by myself. Oh, I left this little note here that I actually really want to say. He makes me want to work my best to be who He is calling me to be. And that's true. That's one of the things that has also helped me with the whole doing those regular things that are really difficult for me, even though they shouldn't be, is sometimes it's not even putting on worship music or asking Him to do it with me. He changes the desires of my heart. He makes me want to be my best. There's a verse out there. I can put it on the screen, but it is that whatever you do, do it your best. And I love that mindset, because it's like, whether you're working your fast food job, whether you're at a 9 to 5, you're working at a call center, or maybe you're a pastor, do it all for the glory of God, and do it as if you were doing it for God, because you are. And you never know what chance you're going to have to influence someone else and draw them closer to Him. I think I've covered everything. This is how far my coffee is. I'm a slow drinker. I'm a sipper. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for letting me share my story. Thank you, God, for everything that you have done and will continue to do in my life. If you have any questions, or if you have anything that you want to say or tell me, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear maybe your story or anything, how God has influenced your life. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.